In the quaint little town of Elmbrook, life moved like a lazy river, calm, predictable, unremarkable. But behind a moss-covered stone wall on Maple Lane lived a boy who knew something no one else did. Eli Weaver, 12 years old, with hair like wind-swept hay and midnight-colored eyes, had a secret. He could see tomorrow. Not like a guess or a dream, no. When Eli lay down at night, the back of his eyelids became a movie screen. He watched the next day play out word for word, second by second. It started when he was 7. He saw his mother drop a glass vase in the kitchen. The next day, it shattered exactly as seen. At first, he thought it was just déjà vu, but it kept happening every day. He told his parents. They didn't believe him. "I saw Dad trip over the garden hose tomorrow," he said. His father laughed. The next morning, his laughter turned into a grunt and a bruised knee. Soon, it was more than just broken vases or stumbles. Eli began to notice patterns. Fights that hadn't happened yet. Accidents waiting to occur. He began trying to stop them. Sometimes it worked. Other times it didn't. It was like watching a train barreling toward a wall, knowing you might not be able to pull the brakes. The vision came like thunder on a clear night. Eli closed his eyes and saw it. Smoke, flames, screams, Elmbrook's city hall engulfed in fire. The great clock tower crumbled. A woman cried, clutching her child. Sirens, ash, fear. And there, in the center of the street, stood Eli, watching, untouched, still, like a ghost in the fire. He woke up gasping, sweat drenching his pillow. The next day, he did something bold. He broke his rule. He warned everyone. He told his teacher, "There's going to be a fire. City Hall, at 3:17 p.m. She called his parents. His father scolded him. "You want to scare people now." But Eli kept trying. He emailed the mayor's office. Left an anonymous voicemail for the fire department. Begged the school to do a fire drill. No one listened. Except for one substitute teacher, Miss Holly. She saw the panic in his eyes and moved recess to earlier that day. At 3:17 p.m., Eli stood in the field across the street from City Hall, and then it happened just as he'd seen. But thanks to that one change, the evacuation was quicker. The mayor had left early. Fire crews responded in minutes. No one died. The story hit the local news. Boy predicts fire. Scientists, TV stations, reporters. His face was suddenly everywhere. But Eli didn't feel like a miracle. He felt exposed and watched. The next vision came a month later, different this time. In the vision, the town square was eerily empty. A man in a black coat stood under the clock tower, placing a suitcase on the ground. When he opened it, a blue pulse burst out, rippling like heat waves through the air. People dropped, screaming. The air cracked, birds fell mid-flight. The grass turned gray, but worst of all, the man looked straight at Eli, their eyes locked. And then he smiled. Eli woke up screaming. He'd never been seen in a vision before, never acknowledged. The visions were supposed to be movies, not mirrors. The next night, the same scene played. This time, Eli tried something new. He stepped into the vision and willed himself closer. "Who are you?" he asked the man. The man turned slowly. "I make tomorrow," he said, "while you only watch it," and the suitcase began to hum. Eli jolted awake. His ears were ringing. His skin was tingling. That night, he found his bedroom window open. He hadn't opened it. Something was crossing over. After that night, Eli's visions expanded. Not just Elmbrook anymore. He saw places he'd never been. Cultures he'd never studied, and children, lots of them. A blind boy in Brazil painted tomorrow's landscapes before they happened. A girl in India heard whispers of coming events in her sleep. A Ukrainian boy dreamed of explosions in places that hadn't yet seen war. Each vision felt like a message, a calling. They were all like him, connected, but then came a pattern Eli dreaded. In each new vision, the man in the black coat began to appear. Sometimes standing in the background, sometimes walking past a mirror. Always watching and always with that suitcase. Then, one day, the blind boy's painting stopped mid-brush. A few nights later, Eli saw no more of him. One by one, the visions of the children disappeared. Something or someone was collecting them. Or worse, Eli began mapping their names and faces. Writing down symbols, gathering clues. He realized the truth. There wasn't just one child who saw tomorrow. There were many, and now they were being hunted. Eli stopped being afraid. He started training his visions. Each night, he tried to alter the next day. First small things, spilling a drink he'd seen himself avoid, stepping into scenes he'd normally watch. Then bigger things, warning people, changing outcomes. And to his shock it worked. The future bent like soft metal. Not always, but more than before. He began journaling what changed and what didn't. He experimented like a scientist of time. Patterns emerged. The more he believed, the more control he had. But the more control he took, the darker his dreams became. The man in the coat appeared again, this time in his house. Eli's mother walked right past him, unaware. The man placed the suitcase on Eli's bed. "You're learning," he whispered, then he vanished. When Eli woke, the exact same suitcase sat on the floor, empty but humming. Eli had a decision to make. Run or fight tomorrow. He chose to fight. He gathered everything: maps, journals, dreams. He contacted scientists who'd once tried to study him. Even a conspiracy forum where someone else had mentioned seeing a man with a humming box. He wasn't alone. A few children reached out through coded messages. "I see him too. He took my brother. Meet me in the dreams." Eli formed the beginnings of a secret group. They called themselves the Seers. Each night they practiced changing time. The man in the coat noticed. He began sabotaging their visions, sending false tomorrows, breaking the rules. But Eli had something the man didn't: hope, and now all of them had it too. Eli started noticing strange patterns, certain visions repeating, looping endlessly. Then one night he couldn't wake up, trapped in a vision that refused to end. It was a prison, a vast, colorless city without sound or sky, a dream with no exit. He wasn't alone. A boy named June, from South Korea, had been trapped for 12 nights. A girl, Samira, said her dreams had no future, just static. The man in black had figured out how to trap dreamers. If you stayed too long or meddled too much, you were locked away. Eli focused, using his training. "Dreams are mirrors," he whispered. "I write tomorrow." His heartbeat slowed. He drew a door on a wall. It opened. He escaped, but not all of them could. The man in black introduced new weapons, silence agent screechers that looked like shadows with faces erased. They didn't hurt you. They stole your memories. Eli saw it in his visions: dreamers waking up not remembering their powers, their parents, their names. One girl in London painted her entire house with notes to self. Eli began using audio recorders and dream journals locked in a metal box. Still, some memories faded. One day, Eli looked at his mother and whispered, "Did I have a brother?" She looked confused. Had they already taken something from him? Eli dreamed of a city that had never existed: golden buildings, transparent trains, trees that spoke, people in robes. It was called Viralia. Each time he returned, he learned more. The city was a possible tomorrow, a future that could exist if certain paths were followed. But Viralia was under threat. A massive storm in the shape of a clock face hovered above it. If Eli failed, this utopia would never be real. Could he lead the world to this future? Or would it become one of the forgotten maybes? During one vision, Eli met a child older than time, a boy with no shadow, sitting inside a tree made of glass. "I was the first dreamer," the boy said. He introduced himself as Azil. He had tried to reshape the future once and failed. "You mustn't fight time alone," Azil warned. "It bends but never breaks." Azil taught Eli to listen, not just see. Time, he said, had a voice, one that whispered in silence and rhythm. Before he vanished, Aziel gave Eli a compass. Pointed to hope, he said, not fear. One morning, Eli opened his eyes. He had seen nothing the night before. No visions, no hints, just blackness. He panicked. No future meant only one thing, a collapse. He rushed into the town square. No birds chirped, no clocks ticked. Everyone was acting on autopilot. At exactly 12 o'clock noon, the sky cracked open like broken glass. The man in black descended from it. Along with his suitcase glowing brighter than ever, Eli ran. And behind him, the world began to unright itself, buildings pixelated, trees blurred, sound reversed. Only one thing remained solid, Eli and the compass. Eli stood at the edge of untime. The man in black faced him. "Why fight the inevitable?" he asked. Eli raised the compass. "I don't see tomorrow," he said. "I create it." The compass exploded with light, drawing in all the dreamers, Samira, June, Aziel, and others, each holding symbols of their truth. They stood as one. The man in black tried to open the suitcase, but it melted away like wax under the sun. Eli took one step forward and wrote the word hope in the air. Everything stopped. A new sunrise emerged. Not from east or west, but from within the dreamers themselves. The world began again, and this time they would write every tomorrow together.